Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming along to see Gas Safe Register. We're going to be looking at business as usual. We've now renewed the contract. We had it for 10 years. We took over in 2009 from Corgi. We've done a 10-year slot, and the HSE have now approved another 5-year span. So we'll have a look and see what we've been doing. We're looking at a CO fatality case. Unfortunately, we still have these issues. We'd love to be able to say no people are affected by CO from any gas appliance. However, it still goes on, and we'll look at the issues that have evolved around that one. The industry unsafe situations procedure, identifying unsafe situations, which any registered business should be doing as part of their duty of care. We'll look at things that have changed within that as well. And also with Regulation 36, which is the duties on landlords. So if any of you are landlords, landladies, there's now a more of an MOT style where there's a bit of flexibility on the 12-month timings between the issue of the landlord's gas safety record. And we'll take a look at some of the examples. It gets a bit wordy and a bit complicated in that, but if you think of it as an MOT, you'll sort of get the gist. And our favourite bit, which I think you all like as well, is looking for trouble. We put in our magazine out to registered businesses a lot of pictures and photos that are sent in of unsafe situations that they come across, and we're always keen to have anybody send us in some pictures that we can use to make people more aware of the dangers with gas. So business as usual. We've basically done a lot of inspections over the last 10 years, some 410,000 domestic and commercial site visits. That's properties and buildings that we've actually been into. Our sort of KPI, our objective with the HSE is around about 45,000 sites per annum that we have to go and inspect. That's being done by gas engineers. Something like about 6,000 or 5,000 non-registered and illegal investigations that have taken place, which is a lot, isn't it? Illegal people out there doing unsafe gas work, and we'll take a look at that as well. However, most of our time, believe it or not, is spent in the domestic marketplace. That's around about 90% of our visits are done in domestic properties. Checking for the safety of the general public out there when they've had gas work done. 172, we've got there specialist incident investigations completed. They are the unfortunate situations of CO poisonings and fatalities. Now, we are called in. We're not saying that 170 people or more have died, because when we're called in to do an investigation, it's on behalf of the HSE, the coroner's court, or even the police, because it may be a criminal offence that's taken place. But we go in there to identify where the carbon monoxide has come from. It may well not be a gas appliance. It could be an open fire, a log burner. It could be an adjacent chimney to the property that's actually discharging into that property. It could be things like integral garages. If people are working on their cars and then they've got them running in the garages, produces a ton of CO that goes into the property. So looking at the structure of us, as you see up there, we've got 6 regions covering the whole of England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales. Ireland, we only do Northern Ireland. Obviously, Southern Ireland is in Europe. Oh, so are we, I believe, at the moment. But that is the only part that falls under our jurisdiction. And the Isle of Man. And we also run the scheme in Jersey and Guernsey as well. So they fall under as British soil. They fall under our remit. In here, you can see a lot of dots on that. We've got in the green dots, if you can see them, they're the area operations managers, 6 of those. The RIOs, we've got 8 of those. They're the people that any leads on illegal gas work that we hear about, or anybody reports on our website, we pass on to the RIO, and they basically get a letter out to that consumer and say, We believe you've had work done recently. We believe it may not have been done by a registered business. Would you like us to inspect it? Because the issue is we have no powers to enter anybody's property. An example, this morning I've been showing some people coming to our stand, sitting at a set of traffic lights this morning, coming up here from Enfield, and most gasmen do the same. They stop at traffic lights and they look at flues. That's what we do as an industry. Even when we go on holiday, we look at flues and gas appliances. It's just inbuilt into us. And I took a lovely picture of a flue that was completely wrong, too close to a re-entry point into a dwelling. Nothing I could do about it. I don't even know the address because we were just turning right. But, we have no powers to go and do that. 9 specialist incident investigators. As I say, that's with the CO poisonings, fatalities. That's what they do. All zipped up in their white forensic hooded suits, doing ambient testing. Business relationship managers, we have 8 of those. They tend to deal with the larger companies, the British Gases, the Eons, and all those sort of type of people. And they're there to support that business in respect of making sure they've got the right qualifications for their engineers. Have they got valid cards? So we keep a check on that they're doing and managing it correctly. And in the field, basically there's 89 of us. And we have our own geographical patch. I work up in Lincolnshire. That's me, the little dot there, all on its own. Billy No Mates, and I do a lot of LPG on the East Coast. Caravan sites, because they come under the jurisdiction of landlords, because it's rented accommodation, even though it's for holidays. So that's pretty much how we're set up. Technical services, what we've got in this is if you contact Gas Safe Register, we provide support to engineers out there. We have a head of technical operations who reviews and sits on panels about standards changing. We have a technical support manager, and he oversees the 10 technical officers. So we've got 10 people on the phone. They work basically at home-based, but they're on the phone and they're ready to take calls from any engineers. And they've extended the scope of that now. It just used to be Monday to Friday. It's now on a Saturday as well. You can call in on a Saturday because we know that engineers out there do work more than 5 days a week. Some of them obviously work 7 days a week. So we've done that. Standards manager, he is, like I say, he works alongside the BSI, doing the standards, reviewing them, and we always produce those as industry standard updates, which are put into the monthly magazine that goes out to the engineers. And registration manager, he's the person that we deal with should, and we don't like doing it, but sometimes we have to, should we want to suspend a business? Maybe someone's not doing it quite safe as it should be. So that goes through him. So there's a lot of support there. On the technical services then, it's support to the engineers and the inspectors. Us inspectors don't know all the answers. We would never say that we did. And I do phone them and I do seek advice, because there's so much information that, you've got to keep up to speed with, and things change in our industry all the time. The 10 guys that are on the phones, they're all got ACS qualifications, but they are so used to looking in documents. Yeah, it might take me half a day to find the bit that I'm looking for, and that's why we promote the fact to the businesses, don't worry about phoning, and it's always best to ask a question than not. Yeah, I tend to say, in our industry nowadays, we don't wear blinkers, whereas maybe in the past some of us did. I didn't see that, so I don't have to worry about it. Now there's a duty to look at other things as well, and we'll have a look at that as well. 2018, 82,000 phone calls came in to our technical department, and 300 pieces of correspondent requests each month. And what I say to businesses is, if you're out there, you're looking at something, you're not sure, give our guys a ring. And if you're trying to explain the situation about maybe the location of a flue, it's sometimes a lot easier with modern technology snap a picture and just you can buzz it over on email so that our technical guys can see it. Much easier for those. They author and review the Engineer magazine, so everything that comes out in that monthly magazine is done by the technical services. And as I say, they sit on all these bodies that look at all the working groups of what we're going to change. They also support enforcement agencies such as HSE and the police, etc. One of our head of technical services is an incident investigator as well. Yeah, we brought him on board because his knowledge of all the standards and everything else. So anything that involves incidents goes through technical and then passed out to the incident inspectors. So what do they get asked? Loads of questions, yeah? And some people think, oh, well, I won't phone because it's a bit of a silly question. We don't mind how silly the question is. We much prefer someone to ask it. Does the installation and use regulations allow for a forced entry when a landlord check is overdue? Basically, no. You can't force entry into somebody's property unless you've got under warrant. So we would definitely say that. Can I issue a landlord's safety check if there are defects in the installation? Well, yes, you can, because basically that's what the duty is. The landlord has to have a live document, whether it says the appliances are safe or unsafe, and that's what needs to be on there. CMDDA1. We use a lot of abbreviations in ACS qualifications. This is for checking for carbon monoxide within a domestic arena, shall I say. So it might be somebody's CO alarm's gone off. Yeah, that's fine. You don't need that. But if you was investigating a CO poisoning, that qualification would not be a valid one. You need to have an incident investigations qualification. So what our advice would be, if any engineer goes along because the alarm's going off, they can carry out their normal safety checks, yeah. They can sweep for CO within the environment, yeah, but they can't use that evidence of it being present or not because they don't have the qualification to do so. If it's a CO poisoning, it's an incident, the HSE are all over it, it might be the police as well, yeah, because somebody might have worked on it that shouldn't have. Can PE pipe be used on the outlet? Someone's asked this. Obviously, a non-domestic meter remote from a building. Yeah, like it might be this stadium. Yeah, massive, great meter somewhere outside. And people are saying, well, I've got some PE, which is the yellow plastic pipe, within that environment before it goes underground. Is that okay? The answer to that is basically no, you can't. It needs to be within a metallic sleeve. And in looking for trouble, we'll look at a situation that is rife out there, happens all the time, and a lot of engineers will be missing it. And I'll put my hand up and probably say I have missed some of those in the past, many years ago now, but I have missed them. And I think if you're an engineer, you will say, I think I've missed one as well. Threaded pipe on non-domestic, anything basically over 2 inch nowadays can't be threaded. Up to 500 millibars, so it's quite a high pressure range, depending if you go higher or lower than that. But generally, above 2 inch now must be welded. So they're the sort of questions they get asked. A lot of random stuff. Dedicated team there. We've got the investigations team, and HSE have a website. If you ever want to go on there and have a look and see what's going on in relation to gas, you've got to search quite well on these because obviously the HSE deal with all sorts of things like someone slipped over in Sainsbury's on the wet floor and they didn't have the yellow signs up. All those things are on there because there could be prosecutions. But you can search for the gas one and find out what's actually happening. We do work very closely with the HSE. That is our main client, obviously. That's the body that sits behind and runs the scheme. And they're very keen on ensuring of gas safety. What have they been doing? Well, up till March this year, as you see there, about 530 unregistered inspection visits. And what have they been finding? 19.5% immediately dangerous, and they got around about 50% at risk. In today's terminology, they're all dangerous. the whole lot. And that's about nearly 70% of the work we've looked at that's done by illegal people. Dangerous people out there doing this and really putting the general public's life at risk. So let's have a look at a case study, what we've got here. We've got unregistered gas installer then, or gas fitter. He's been convicted twice. Hasn't learned from the first time. He's having another crack at it. Yeah, in Luton and Aylesbury. In 2012, at Luton, he was given a temporary community penalty. All right, so it was a minor thing. They've said to him, don't do it anymore. Yeah, we know about you. However, a year later, he was given a 9-month prison sentence because he was at it again. So they do impose a lot of fines and prison sentences on them. And then he thought he'd try his luck in North Norfolk. And James, standing over here, the big guy, he works North Norfolk, and he come across him up that way. Well, what had he done? He'd installed a gas fire and a hob. And on this reading here, we can see that over the test period that he'd done, he had a pressure drop in excess of what was allowed within the permitted time. So therefore, it was immediately dangerous. He's left the gas escape that could build up. There could be a fire. It's been twice called back to this. The customer had given him opportunity to put it right, but he failed to even do it. He even attached a gauge, believe it or not, as I understand, and left it on for 3 hours because he wanted to assure the customer that everything was safe. But unfortunately, he didn't take any notice of the reading after 3 hours, and obviously it was pouring out. This was the connection to the cooker, as you can see there, with leak detection fluid on it. It was bubbling away, and that was where the gas escape was identified. Also, he'd installed the fire. This is the connection under the fire, and lo and behold, he couldn't even tighten up that fitting correctly either. So 2 gas escapes on one job, and he couldn't even repair it when he was told. This was the fire he fitted. If you're not aware of it, it's a live fuel effect fire stove. It's got a flue on the top. This is the danger label we put on it because it is definitely immediately dangerous. And that's how he left it. And his instructions to the customer was, I'll leave the door open. You can put your own coals and logs on there now, which are the ceramic ones, yeah, and just shut the door and put the screw back in it. That's how he left it. So he never even tested this appliance to make sure it would be working safely with the testing of what we do on a chimney. This time he was sentenced to 14 months in prison. Yeah, I think they'd had enough of him there. Aggravating factors of the case, he'd been caught numerous times and he was deliberately offended. He was taking no notice. It was reduced, the sentence was 21 months in prison, but credit for an early plea. So they gave him 14 months, added a bit more on for not taking any notice of being told off before, and then they reduced it down to 21 months because he pleaded guilty. Nothing else he could really have done, to be quite honest, yeah. So what do we ask? Well, we've got a lot of leaflets. You can get them through our website. You can actually contact us on the phone. And all we ask for is maybe if you know the name or suspect somebody's doing it illegally, let us know. The most common thing for people to do is an address. Yeah, and an engineer could phone us up and say, I sort of priced for a job, I didn't get it, but there is somebody, I don't know who it is, but I've never seen them before in my area, could be illegal gas work. Fine, we'll get a letter out and we'll see if the customer wants us to go and see them. There's our website and there's the number there. You can get that straight off our website anyway. So CO incident investigations then. 7 it says there. We've looked at 7 between April and February this year. And these investigations include a carbon monoxide fatality. Someone's died. And it was a foreign national who was on holiday in the UK. I don't know if you remember this one. It was on the news. I believe it was a hotel in Knightsbridge where a chap from Spain, I believe he came from, died. There was a light well down by his room off the pavement, and there was a fan-flued new boiler installed down there whereby on high fire, when the fan was blowing hard, the products was coming out, but when it went down to low fire, it was circulating in the light well and it re-entered through an openable window. All right, so we was heavily involved in that. In fact, that hotel was shut down immediately by the HSE. All the guests had to be moved. Wide range of types of investigation, domestic, non-domestic. And in this particular one, we've got the death of a female aged 85. It found we had an old boiler with the old flue that used to go up, and it needed air from the room to burn. And it was in a little boxed compartment. And when that compartment door was shut, it only had low-level ventilation, and it was what we call cross-ventilated. It was coming from the room and it was coming from under the floor, which is not allowed. And you can get a draft through this into the room and not up the chimney. So consequently, it all stopped working. And it was also connected to an unlined chimney. Any chimney that is used with a fluid boiler would be lined, and it wasn't. And they found that it was CO that had killed the person. Somewhere where 51% was recorded in the bloodstream, and that's what they measure. And that was killed them. And believe it or not, with CO, our body prefers carbon monoxide than it does to oxygen. So if there's a potential of CO in that environment, our body will take it in more than it will take in oxygen. That's why it's so dangerous. There was the flue going up, looking up at it, yeah, and basically the flue from the chimney was connected to that unlined chimney. The prevailing weather conditions, yeah, caused issues with it, and consequently, looking at it, that's what we found when we looked inside the flue. Completely blocked up because it was in the brick chimney. All the bricks had loosened, fallen down, rubble into the chimney, into the flue system, completely blocked. All the products came into the room, and that is why, unfortunately, the lady died. So this caused the air inside the compartment to actually vitiate because the products were now in the room, mixing with the gas being burnt again, and it was a vicious circle that goes round and round, and the levels of CO continually rise. So terrible situations to have to talk about, but they do exist, and this is why we need to be out there. Moving on, we got Gas Safe Week, and I know it's got 2018 up there. It's because we haven't done this year's one yet, so that's in the planning. We do it every September, and any registered business can sign up, and we provide them with what's known as a toolkit. It's leaflets and everything else to promote to their customers about using the right person, a registered person. I mentioned about the unsafe situations procedure. We used to call it a TB, a Technical Bulletin 001. It's now IGEMG 11. It's a guidance document from the Institute of Gas Engineering Managers. There you see it there, supported by the industry, and as you see, published in March 2018. It was amended as well in April 18, 6 weeks later. There was a bit of a hiccup on additional emergency control valves inside flats. It changed from what it used to say. It said if you haven't got one, it becomes dangerous. So can you imagine how many flats haven't got an additional valve inside? There is millions, and everyone was being turned off. So they've gone back on it and said, no, we'll change it again. One label now. We used to have labels that said at risk, and they used to say immediately dangerous. There is only one label for both categories. They are both dangerous, and that is what we tell a customer. Yeah, a clear message. I think you'll agree. So if someone told you your gas boiler was dangerous, I don't think you would be arguing the fact, well, I've been using it for 10 years and it's never hurt me. It would be more, right, okay, I understand what you're telling me. So it's one safety warning. That's what we need to be saying. The AR and the ID in the unsafe situations is for the engineer to determine the action to be taken. So with at risk, we turn off. With immediately dangerous, we disconnect. But that is what we tell the customer about the installation or the appliance. So what do we need to determine anything about an installation? Well, we need the manufacturer's instructions. That's why they are told when a new appliance is fitted, they are left with the customer. Important technical information in these. It tells us maybe about combustion performance of the appliance and all other information. Clearances around it, methods of testing it, input ratings, all the technical stuff. And there's a set of user's instructions which tell the customer how to use it, which is quite handy. I know if anyone's like me, I never read user's instructions until it won't work. Then I might look at them. But that's what should be there. Okay, you might find that you can't put your hands on the instructions. Well, we have standards, and I've mentioned them already, and that's what we fall back on. It's a generic document that gives us a lot of information that we can use as guidance. That's a full slide if ever I've seen one. But this is what's inside the unsafe situations. Each page has a situation, it has a category of how dangerous it is, and it has some further information, maybe some guidance of what you could maybe assess and determine was right or wrong. There's no major changes in there. It's been revamped a bit. And also in this particular document, it used to contain all the NCSs, not to current standards, was in there. And that has been removed because something that is not to current standards is not dangerous. It's not quite right, but it doesn't make it a danger. So it was in the wrong document. It didn't need to be in there. So what we've got now is just IR, ID and AR. So everything in there is dangerous. And I said about what duty does an engineer have in somebody's property now? Well, they've actually given clear guidance on this because they say you're working in the environment of this property. What do you need to visually inspect maybe? And it tells us here, it says, well, if I encounter an appliance while working on another, so I'm in this kitchen, I'm going to work on the boiler, but there's maybe another appliance in that room, I now have a duty to do a visual inspection of that other appliance. I'm not going to work on it. I'm just going to do a visual inspection. So I would check, is it in the right location? i.e., a cooker in a kitchen is the right location. A cooker in a bathroom is in the wrong location. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Does it need a flue? And if it does, has it got one? So a cooker, it doesn't need a flue, it hasn't got one. That's okay. Does it need any ventilation for that particular appliance? With a cooker, if you're registered, you would know that depending on the size of the room, it may well need it. So that would be something you might have to look at. Well, what's the size of the room? Any signs of distress? That could be burning worktops, combustible material above it, cupboards that are showing signs of distress. That would make it dangerous, potential of fire. Stable and secure. We don't expect anyone to go rocking cookers and things about. We're just saying, visually looking at it, yeah, does it look stable? Is it propped up on a brick? Is it sort of tied up with a bit of string or whatever else? We're not asking anyone to pull it out because it is only with your eyes. And as long as it says it meets all those requirements, it says you don't even have to record that on a work document anymore. You only need to record it if there's something wrong. Yeah. Another example might be when we do a tightness test, which means we're checking for any pressure loss on an installation within a dwelling. And it says, well, when you do a tightness test, because you're actually turning the gas supply off now, do all those same things to the appliances. However, best practice now, and we would expect registered businesses to do work to best practice, would be to light the appliance. just to look at the flame picture. So light the cooker hob or whatever it is and check the flames look like they should. Yeah, and we all sort of know with a cooker, nice clear blue flame, yeah, not at all yellow one, which is releasing carbon monoxide into the property. And the last one it gives us guidance on is when we actually disconnect the gas meter itself, maybe to upgrade a supply to a boiler. We've introduced air into the system and therefore we must go to every appliance, visually inspect, and we must do a flame picture check on it. So that never used to be in the old document, and people were always concerned, what's my duty while I'm in this property? Now they say clearly this is your duty, which I think is very good for us all in the industry. So what we've got here, we've got the unsafe situations procedure, TB001, and the visual risk. They are the two documents that have now been included in the new Unsafe. It's free to download. Any registered business can go onto our website, log in as an engineer, and go to technical bulletins. There's something like about 156 technical bulletins on there that you can get free of charge. So let's just have a look at this one. This is a bit of a change to the installation and use regs in regarding landlord's requirements. And there's a bit more coming out quite soon as well on this. So between November 16 and 17, January there, they consulted on the proposals to change this. And the new edition came into force on 6th of April. So they've done some amendments, and one of the main ones was this MOT style, and we'll take a look at that. So the industry standard, this is what we publish, and it's on our website for the engineers, and it's also in the Engineer magazine. We say it's an industry standard update, what has changed. So it's not the whole document again, it's the little bits that have changed, yeah, to let them know. So here we have duties of landlords and determination of the date when the next safety check is due. That's a standard document now, yeah, all sorts of people produce and sell these. And just on a point, people that do sell them with our logo on, you're not buying them off of us. I know that we've got the gas safety shop next to us here. They sell our stuff under license. They've got a license to use our logo, all right? And they like black and yellow like we do as well. So some people are getting a bit confused on that. So what does it do? It allows some flexibility. Landlords have always liked their 12 months, haven't they? If you're paying for 12 months worth, if you're paying for an MOT on your car, you want 12 months worth, yeah? You don't want 11 months worth, yeah? So what happens is landlords get to that 12 months worth part, and then they have problems getting in to get the safety check done. And the HSE have understood that, that's fine. And they've thought, how can we maybe help out on this? So what they've actually done is they've done the 2-month MOT style now. So where a safety check on an appliance or flue has been completed within the period of 2 months ending the deadline date, that check can be treated as having been made on the date. And that sounds all wordy and very confusing, and it is when you read it. I'll try and explain to it. So they've got a 2-month period prior to the expiry date of the in-force landlord's gas safety record they've got. So they can do that every year, but they can also do it once with a new appliance to align it to the date that the safety check is done. I think that was going a little bit overboard because, generally speaking, if a landlord's check is done in January, yeah, and a new appliance is fitted in July, well, that new appliance is covered for 12 months anyway under the commissioning. And it would generally be picked up next January anyway. But what they're saying is, well, if that new appliance was fitted within a 2-month period of the expiry, yeah, you can align it by going to 14 months. That's the only time you can do it. If it was fitted outside that 2-month span, you've got to pick it up on the next check. Yeah. So I think the easiest way to put this over is you can do any landlord's gas safety record 2 months earlier and pick up that new appliance when you do that. That's the easiest way to actually do it. Otherwise, you could get very confused, and it is confusing. So let's have a look at this one. We've got a rented property. It's got 3 appliances in it, which require the check. The deadline date is 12 months after the previous one. We know that, yeah, was carried out. So that would be, let's say, the 1st of September 2018, yeah? It was done on the 1st of September 2017. So the next one would be the 1st of September 18. However, what you can do now is you can do it 2 months earlier on the 1st of July, which gives you the August and September, up to the deadline date. Yeah, some landlords have got this particular way of having programmers that if it gets to 12 months and the tenant hasn't allowed access to it, that the actual boiler won't work anymore. I'm not sure how compliant with the law that is, because actually refusing to heating to people during the winter months is a bit of a dodgy area. I know they do it. That's not my issue. They do it in my area as well. It's amazing how many tenants happen to be in though, when they know it's getting to the 12-month period. But what this is saying is now you've got a bit more scope. You can get in there, start getting in there 2 months earlier. That's all they're trying to say to us. On this one we've got here, the next safety check was meant to be done on the 1st, but it's completed early. There was 2 months remaining on the current one, so the safety check could be carried up to 14 months. You've got your 12 months plus the 2 months you've done it earlier. And it's the same as your MOT on your car, isn't it? I think it's 1 month on that. Yeah, it's due in October. You take it in 4 weeks earlier. It passes. It's got to pass. Yeah, you can't have it, well, it's failed, but it's all right, you've still got a month left. And in this case, you can't have, oh, it's failed, but actually it's not due for 2 months, so you're all right. I think we'd all understand that that's not allowed, yeah. But as long as it passes, that becomes a valid document for 14 months. So it does help with maybe the engineers getting in, yeah, although it's not your responsibility, it's the landlord's responsibility to ensure they've got a live document. That means it's never, the property has never got a landlord's gas safety record. Irrespective of whether it's passed or failed, they must have one. Right, if you've got the only gas boiler, this is the only gas appliance, yeah, done in 17, the due date is 18, yeah, but in 18, yeah, halfway through that year of that valid certificate, the boiler was replaced. The deadline date for the new boiler would be 12 months from the installation because it's done under the commissioning benchmark book, all right? And so therefore, the 2 months left on that one would be lost. It doesn't exist anymore. You can only align a new appliance to the existing appliances. If you've only got one and you change it, that's the end. It becomes 12 months from that date of the new install. Looking for trouble, we'll have a look at some pictures there. Assume the initiations are connected to the thing. And where is the flow? We had an inspector actually went into a property and asked where's the flue for the boiler because there was a conservatory at the back, and she said it's in the cupboard. In the cupboard, and was directed out to in the conservatory in the cupboard, and that was what was in the cupboard. No sign of a flue, but if you moved it all, there was the flue inside the cupboard. And what they'd done, they'd put the conservatory on the back, put a cupboard there. So where the air supply was meant to come from for this boiler, we do not know. Suck it through the gaps in the doors. And then they put a plume kit on, which took it outside the conservatory. Yeah, minimum of at risk, it's dangerous, that should never be like that. Even with the approved fittings and pipes on it, it needs to be taken out. So, yeah, not a good idea. The pilot kept going out on this boiler. For those of you that recognise it, you might have seen the old flues we used to put out with the stainless steel flues for natural draft balance boilers, sticking out the wall there. But what they'd actually done was, it was causing a bit of a problem around here, so they decided to make up this lovely sheet aluminium, put a little air vent there, it's nice, so it can get an air supply, and hopefully the products would go up there and it would take its air supply there. No, that don't work at all either. Can you imagine how long it takes somebody who doesn't know what they're doing to build that? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Obviously got, some skills. Flue, condensate leaking from a flue. As you can see around that collar there, that's a metal flue. A lot of them are plastic, yeah. But what it was the fall on that flue was incorrect. We use inclinometers nowadays, where we can put it on there. If the manufacturer wants a 1.5 degree drop, that's what we want. Yeah. Some have it built into the flue system. It can be fitted horizontally. As you can see in the second photo there, it actually is 0.3 of a degrees. It's actually horizontal. Yeah. And the condensate will just sit in there. It's acidic, it's corrosive, and it will eat through. And that's what it does. Once it eats through from the internal, it brings the air supply and the product outlet together, recycles through the boiler, and the products go sky off the limit. This one we have got another guy. He didn't fancy moving the soil pipe. He thought he'd put on a nice air vent on the top of that one, so he chopped it in half. Instead of putting a 45 on the top of the boiler and take it around, no, I'll just cut that off and put an air a point in there where it can drain air so that the soil still works on it. Yeah, he was pretty good, this guy. It's a bit blurred, but that was the gas supply he'd put in the property. Copper supply going through the wall, not sleeved, but I put a bit of expanding foam around it. Yeah, that'll solve my problem. So not good there. One that we came across not so long back now, our inspector up in Bradford found this one. Someone was doing some work in their front garden with a little JCB digger. PE service pipes are not very far under the ground. Yeah, and yeah, there was this PE supply. You might not be able to see, it's a bit of a blurred picture, but this is a bit of water PE, the blue colour, a bit of gaffer tape and 2 Jubilee clips. Yeah, I think what it was they'd already called out Cadent, or National Grid as we knew them, to repair it because they'd broke it once, and obviously they told them off severely, and when they did it the second time they didn't fancy calling them again, so they did a little temporary repair themselves. Not a good idea. This one here, yeah, we honestly, the number of jobs that we look at where flues are not sealed, where they come through walls, that's one typical example. It just needs some building material around it. They can be worse, like this. This one was just packed with plastic bags and a few stones out of the garden. Apparently, according to this, I didn't go to this one, he couldn't find any matching bricks. So he said, you'll have to sort those out. Get your builders to put those around there. Well, inside it was actually breeze block, and he couldn't find any matching breeze blocks either. So he didn't put anything around there. He just stuffed it full of bags. Re-entry point, wind blowing in the wrong direction, products coming back in, you've got a major disaster on your hand. Condensate pipe, that's a great one nowadays. We'll just drop it into the ground. That's good because that will eat away at the foundations of the property, won't it? Yeah, it's acidic. It loves chewing through the lime in the cement. He's got a gully up here. He's got a drain. Yeah. Also, on these, for any registered business now, if you check manufacturer's instructions, it's got to be 32 mil external diameter before going through the wall now, before going to outside. We used to put it through in 21, drop it into a bit of 32. We would prefer it to go to a drain. We prefer it to be internal, but you can do either. And I do say to the businesses I go and say, nowhere in the instructions says terminate on a flat roof or into the guttering. There is no picture in the manufacturer's instructions of that. Last couple here. This is the one that you've all missed if you're registered. You walk into a property there, you've got an inset meter box. All well and good. The only problem is it's inside the property. That, you think, strange? Got them inside the property in the lobby. I've got an inset meter box. Oh, wow. They must have put an extension on here or something. And the problem with that is The service pipe to that is PE, it's yellow plastic, and you can't have it inside the property, under the foundations or anything. It must be external. So that meter, when this extension was put on, should have been moved outside, and that is, again, a dangerous situation. So if you are registered and you go into any property and you see any meter box inside, you have got a built-over PE service. Watch out for them. There's loads. There's loads. Yeah, it is. Well, I've done my 45 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got any questions or anything, come and see us over on the stand, and I hope you enjoy the show, and thanks for attending.